You're not wrong. Just elsewhere. I loved you at different speeds. They never had a dramatic fight. No slammed doors. No final message. No one saying, I don't love you anymore. That was probably what made it harder. Because love was still there. Just not moving in the same direction. One of them had started looking at apartments the way people look at futures. Saving listings. Comparing neighborhoods. Imagining where the couch would go, where the coffee mugs would sit, what color curtains would make a place feel like home. The other still looked at train tickets the same way. Still liked the feeling of booking something at midnight. Still wanted the freedom of saying yes to a random weekend somewhere without checking anyone else's schedule first. Neither dream was selfish. Neither dream was wrong. But every conversation began to feel heavier than it should. Not because they argued. Because they understood each other. And understanding someone doesn't always make staying easier. Sometimes it makes leaving hurt more. The strange thing was that, from the outside, everything still looked normal. They still texted good morning. Still shared photos of stupid things they saw during the day. Still sent videos neither of them would remember a week later. Still knew exactly what to order for each other. Still remembered how much sugar went into the coffee. Still knew which side of the bed belonged to who. Love was present in all the small places. That was the problem. Because it made the distance harder to explain. One night, they sat together scrolling on their phones. A completely ordinary night. The television was on, but neither was watching. One person was looking at furniture. The other was looking at cheap flights. Neither said anything. Neither needed to. Sometimes the quiet says everything before words are ready to. And that's when the sadness started appearing in strange moments. Not during arguments. Not during tears. But while folding laundry. While waiting for a traffic light. While standing in line for coffee. Little moments when the future suddenly walked into the room uninvited. One person imagined building a life. The other imagined finding themselves first. Both visions felt necessary. Both visions felt real. And somehow that made them incompatible. People always assume relationships end because somebody failed. Because somebody stopped trying. Because somebody stopped loving. But sometimes two people are simply standing at different chapters. One person is finally tired of uncertainty. The other isn't finished with it yet. One person wants roots. The other still needs roads. The painful part is that neither can explain it without sounding unfair. How do you tell someone you love that they're arriving at exactly the place you're not ready to live in? How do you explain that commitment isn't frightening because of them? It's frightening because of time. Because life suddenly feels permanent. Because choices begin closing other doors. Because growing up looks different depending on where you're standing. So they kept trying. For a while. Long conversations. Gentle compromises. Promises to meet halfway. But halfway only works when both people are heading toward the same destination. Eventually, every compromise started feeling like a quiet sacrifice. One person felt rushed. The other felt postponed. Neither said it immediately. But they both felt it. You can always tell. It's in the extra seconds before replying. The unfinished sentences. The way someone stares at nothing after hanging up a call. The way a message gets typed, deleted, typed again. The way you suddenly stop sharing certain thoughts because explaining them feels exhausting. And still, they loved each other. That remained true all the way through. Maybe that's what hurt most. If there had been betrayal, anger would have helped. If there had been cruelty, leaving would have made sense. Instead, there was affection, patience, care, and a future neither person could agree on. One evening, one of them casually said, maybe in a few years. A harmless sentence. A normal sentence. But it landed differently. Because for one person, a few years sounded reasonable. For the other, it sounded like being left standing at a train station indefinitely. That was the moment nobody talked about afterward. The moment nothing happened. And everything happened. After that, they still smiled. Still spent time together. Still laughed at the same jokes. But somewhere inside, both had already started grieving. Not the relationship. The timing. The terrible timing. Because timing is the thing nobody can fix. You can change habits. You can improve communication. You can become more patient. But you cannot force two lives to want the same future on the same day. And eventually, that's what remained. Not anger. Not blame. Just the quiet realization that love had arrived ready for different things. Years later, neither would remember every conversation. Neither would remember every disagreement. But they'd remember that feeling. The feeling of sitting beside someone you love and realizing they aren't walking toward the same horizon. Not because they don't care. Not because they don't choose you. But because the version of life they're trying to reach exists a little farther down the road. And for the first time, you understand that being loved and being ready are not always the same thing. Some people leave because they don't love enough. Others leave because love isn't the thing that's missing. And somehow, that version hurts longer.